The 2026 season hasn't even started yet, but we have already got a big fight going on behind the scenes. Mercedes has built an engine that could give them a massive advantage over everyone else. But now the other teams want the FIA to step in and stop it, and it looks like they might just get what they want. So what is going on? Let's break it down. Every engine in Formula One has something called a compression ratio. Think of it like this. Before the fuel burns inside the engine, it gets squeezed together. The more you squeeze it, the bigger the explosion, and the more power you get. The rules say that you can squeeze up to a ratio of 16:1. That is the limit. Every team has to stay within that number. But here is where it gets really interesting. The FIA checks this number when the engine is cold, just sitting in the garage, turned off, at room temperature, and when they check the Mercedes engine like that, it is exactly at 16:1. Totally legal, no problem at all. But Mercedes did something very smart. They used special metals inside their engine that grow bigger when they get hot. So when the engine is running on track and everything heats up, those parts expand, and that pushes the compression ratio up to around 18:1. That means more power. How much more? About 0.3 of a second per lap, which is a lot in Formula One. A massive amount, actually. So now you can guess what happened. The other teams found out about it, and they are not too happy. Ferrari, Honda, and Audi have all gone to the FIA and said this isn't fair. They say the limit should count all the time, not just when the engine is cold, and they want the FIA to change how they measure it. Instead of checking the engine when it is turned off, they want the FIA to check it when the engine is running and hot. If they do that, the Mercedes trick would not work anymore. And here is the big twist. Red Bull also knew about this trick. They learned about it from an engineer who used to work at Mercedes. But Red Bull is not as far along as Mercedes. They are still behind. So if the FIA closes this loophole, Red Bull doesn't lose much, but Mercedes loses a lot. That is why Red Bull decided to vote against Mercedes. Smart move. So now you have 4 out of 5 engine makers who want the rules changed. That is enough to pass a vote. Ferrari, Honda, Audi, and Red Bull are all on one side. And Mercedes is standing alone. That is a very tough spot for them to be in. Toto Wolff, the boss of Mercedes, is not taking this quietly. He came out and said that the other teams had secret meetings to try and hurt Mercedes. He is angry. He says Mercedes worked on this technology for a long time. They talked to the FIA during the entire process. And now, to have it taken away right before the season starts would be a huge blow. Wolff has even said that Mercedes is ready to fight back if the rules get changed. But there is also a short-term fix being talked about. Mercedes gets their fuel from Petronas. One idea is for Petronas to lower the energy in their fuel. This would not break any rules. The fuel would still be legal, but it would take away some of the extra power that Mercedes gets from the compression ratio trick. This could be a quick fix while the FIA works on a bigger, more permanent change. Now, here is the thing. Even if the FIA does change the rules, it is not the end for Mercedes. Their engine is still very good. The change would only reduce their advantage, not take it away completely. They would still be one of the fastest teams out there, but it would make things more fair for everyone else. And we saw in Barcelona how strong Mercedes looked. They did over 500 laps during the test. George Russell set the fastest time. The car looked smooth and fast. Russell even said it was probably the quickest he had ever seen a Formula One car pass there. That is a big statement. So, even without this compression ratio trick, Mercedes has clearly done a great job with their 2026 car. The timing of all this is also very important. The Bahrain test starts next week, and the first race in Australia is only about a month away. The FIA doesn't want to go into the first race with this mess still hanging over them. They want it all sorted out before Melbourne. But changing rules takes time. There needs to be a vote. And even after a vote, Mercedes could challenge it. So this could drag on for quite a while. The sustainable fuels add another layer to this story. For 2026, every team has to use fuels that are 100% sustainable. These new fuels work differently with the engines. Some engineers say the fuel could matter even more than the engine design itself. In Barcelona, A lot of teams were scared to use the new fuel. They stuck with the old 2025 fuel because they didn't want to risk breaking down. But Mercedes ran their engine with confidence. That tells you something about how far ahead they already are. For Ferrari, this fight is personal. They have not won a championship in a long time, and they cannot afford to start 2026 already behind on power. Honda, who makes the engine for Aston Martin, also wants a fair fight. And Audi, who are new to Formula One, need the playing field to be as level as possible. The FIA has a tough job on their hands right now. They need to be fair to Mercedes, who found something clever within the rules. But they also need to make sure the sport stays close and exciting. Nobody wants to watch one team run away with it because of an engine trick. The decision they make in the next few weeks will shape the whole 2026 season. And right now, all eyes are on the FIA to see what they will do. This whole situation also shows you how Formula One works behind the scenes. It is not just about who has the fastest car on track. It is also about politics. Teams talk to each other. They form groups. They push for rules that help them and hurt their rivals. That has always been the way it works. And right now, Mercedes is on the wrong side of that game. But Mercedes has been in tough spots before. Back in 2014, when the hybrid era started, they were miles ahead of everyone. The other teams pushed for rule changes then too. And Mercedes still stayed at the top for years. Toto Wolff knows how to play this game. He has done it before, and he will do it again. Do not count Mercedes out just yet. The big question now is what happens at the Bahrain test. That is, the next time we will see all the cars on track together. And by then, we might have an answer on the compression ratio issue. If the FIA makes a change before Bahrain, we could see a very different picture. Mercedes might lose some of their speed. The gap to the other teams could become smaller, and that would make the start of the season much more exciting. But if nothing changes, and Mercedes keeps their advantage, then the other teams will likely be angry. And there could even be protests at the first race. Teams could challenge the results. And that would be a terrible way to start a new era for Formula One. Nobody wants that. Not the teams, not the fans, and definitely not the FIA. One thing is clear, though. The 2026 season is going to be wild. We have got new rules, new engines, new fuels, and now a massive political battle before the first race has even happened. This is Formula One at its best and its worst at the same time. The racing has not even started, and we already have drama. Do you think the FIA should change the rules and close the loophole? Or do you think Mercedes deserves to keep their advantage because they were clever enough to discover it? The Bahrain test will give us some answers, and the first race in Melbourne will show us who really has the upper hand.